Sorry about that, but let's see. We were up here at Dalton Wilson's confidence oozed out of him, but then there wasn't a woman in the whole universe who wouldn't jump at the chance to walk down the aisle with him. Sweet Lord, the cowboy looked like Boom Boom on a stick. Dalton flashed a brilliant smile that softened his square jaw. You should never judge a book by its cover. He gave another shrill whistle, and Tuff pranced toward the door, and head and tail held high as if he was marching up the judge's stand to receive the biggest trophy in the prestigious dog show. In Becca's opinion, he still was as ugly as sin on Sunday morning. Together, Dalton and Tuff strutted out of the shed, one sexy cowboy that Becca was determined not to let get under her skin or her heart, and a wiry dog that shared the DNA of steel wool. Dang it, Becca swore underneath her breath. I probably joined all those women in the universe admiring him, but the difference is that I'm stronger than they are, and I can damn well fight off his charm. Becca McKay lived up to the Irish heritage with her flaming red hair, the mossy green eyes. She loved Irish coffee and Irish food, and had a little Irish accent, just like her daddy, who had been born in the County Cork. When it came to music and the southern accent in her voice, she was her mama's daughter, and she was country through and through. Becca had covered songs by Tanya Tucker, Reba McEntire, Dolly Parton, and a whole host of other female country artists from the time she could hold a microphone at county fairs, family reunions, or anywhere anyone would let her sing. With stars in her eyes, she'd gone to Nashville right out of high school, intent on making a career out of country music recording artist. By Christmas, she figured that she would have a contract like all those folks back home in Ringgold, Texas would be listening to her sing on the radio. Yeah, right. At Christmas, she was working for one of the dinner theaters, and in the evening she was singing on street corners just to make rent for her one-bedroom apartment that she shared with 4 other girls. 10 years later, she was working at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge as a bartender at night, in a winery during the day, and living in the same walk-up apartment, at least by the time she was sharing the place with the one other only girl who was just as desperate as she was to get a toe in the door as a country singer. The previous December she'd been on her way home from Tootsie's sometimes after 2 in the morning, and that high heel of her boot stabbed a piece of paper. No matter how hard she shook it with her foot, it wouldn't let go. Finally, she leaned against the brick of a wall building and removed it with her fingers. The steel light illuminated the paper enough that she could identify it as the last page of a contract that had no signature. The next morning, her grandmother, who lived just over the Red River from Texas and Terrell, Oklahoma, called to tell her that she'd fallen and twisted her ankle. Could Becca come home for just a few weeks to help her out? Everything seemed like an omen. The contract with no name on it suggested that she would never sign with a record company, and that her grandma, who had never asked for help from anyone, seemed to say that Nashville would never really be her home. Becca gave the notice at both her jobs, handed her set of apartment keys to her roommate, drove west, watching her hopes and dreams fade away in the rearview mirror. Grammy McKay, Irish to the bone, and a thick Irish accent, got her the job with Austin O'Donnell's wine business. Grammy's ankle healed, and she was getting around really well these days, and Becca enjoyed her work, but Terrell population was less than 400. She sure didn't provide any opportunities for her to sing. Maybe that's a good thing, she muttered as she closed the door to the wine shed and went back to squeezing juice from the first watermelon season. The door hinges squeaked, and Becca flipped around and ready to yell at Tuff if he figured a way out to get inside again. She might not like that Dalton's dog, but her pulse jacked up a few notches at the thought of seeing Dalton a second time that morning. She was already visualizing him in those faded tight jeans, scuffed up cowboy boots, and his dusty old straw hat as she turned away from the watermelon she was cutting into chunks. In her mind's eye, she could see his dark hair curling at his cambray shirt collar, and the bright blue eyes were twinkling as he teased her about his worthless dog. "Rodeo dog my butt," she muttered. "You calling me a dog, darling girl, or have you given up singing and gone to riding bulls?" Grammy McKay's accent jerked the picture of Dalton right out of Becca's head. "No, ma'am," she answered. "I was just fussing to myself about the mutt of Dalton Wilson's. Seems like every time it gets a chance it comes looking for me." Grammy sat down in a lawn chair. The morning she wore a bright green sweatsuit that brought out the glimmer in her eyes, and that was almost the same color as Becca's. Her red hair, now sprinkled with gray, was twisted up in a knot on the top of her head. There had been something wrong with a lassie who doesn't like a dog, or maybe you better examine yourself instead of poor old Tough. Pooch can't help the way God made him any more than you can help the way the good Lord made you. What's really eating out in your heart this morning? Are you afraid that you can't run this wine-making business for a spell all by yourself? Nothing like that. And the Lord knows Austin and Rye and those precious children of theirs need a vacation. I'm glad Austin trusted me enough to leave me for a job for a week, Becca admitted. That much, but she sure didn't want to talk about the way the cowboy who lived across the dirt road affected her. Dalton Wilson was known all over southern Oklahoma and North Texas for his bad boy reputation. And Becca sure didn't need that in her life. Then is it Dalton, not that poor old ugly dog that's gotten your knickers in a twist? Grammy asked. Becca dragged a lawn chair across the room and sat down beside her grandmother. I don't have time for a one-night stand kind of guy. Dalton is a love him and leave him cowboy, and I refuse to be just another notch on his bedpost. Ah, darling girl, Grammy smiled. That does bring back memories. That's exactly what your mama told me about your grandpapa. She said, Greta, that boy will break your heart, and you'll be nothing but a notch on his bedpost. It takes a brave and determined woman to tame a wild boy. But once you get the job done, they make mighty fine husbands, fathers, and lovers, she said with a sly wink, and I'll be living testimony of that. I tamed Seamus McKay, not to say that it didn't take a while, but by the time we had your daddy, he had come through the fire and was pure gold until the day he died. Fire? Becca asked. Do you think that taming him was easy? I had to light a few blazes under him before the job was finished. Dalton might be as wild as a March hare right now, but maybe he hasn't met the right Irish woman. Someone willing to strike the match like I was with my son Seamus. Well, I hope he meets her soon and quits crossing the road to this part of the O'Donnell property, Becca smarted off. Better think hard about what you asked for, Miss Greta Rebecca Kay. Grammy was using her full name, which meant she was dead serious. We got one more page to share, and then I'm going to give you the rating, provided Sonic here can get down from where he's at. I tell you, this has not been my night. We have interruptions tonight, don't we, baby? Come here. Come on. Come here. Chapter 6. On Tuesday, Becca hit the ground running and didn't stop until it was almost dark. She was dragging by the time it made back home, and she plopped down on the sofa the minute she got into the living room. Both kittens climbed the arm of the sofa like it was a tree and walked across the back until they reached her. Then they used her ponytail for a batting toy. Sound familiar, Sonic? Did you see Dalton today? Greta asked. Nope, she answered. He's been in the hayfield all day. They got a second cutting on one of the big pastures. He texted me a few times. Grammy, I like him a lot, but... Honey, you have to listen to your heart. If it tells you to walk, then do it. If it tells you to stick with it, then do it. Ain't a one of us old ladies or any of your young friends can give you solid advice on love. I like that cowboy. He's got a hell of a bad reputation when it comes to loving and leaving. But Greta shrugged. But what? Becca pushed for more. But he looks at you like my Seamus looked at me, and it might sound crazy to you, but it means something to me. Now get on in there, dip you a plate full of corned beef and cabbage. You look like you're on your last leg. You need a little nourishment for you to be good. Greta pointed toward the kitchen. Yes, ma'am. Both kittens had already climbed to Becca's shoulder and were curling up to take a nap. She set them on the floor and headed toward the kitchen. Hey, did I tell you that Dalton can cook and that he makes great cookies? My Seamus liked to help me in the kitchen. His meat pies were the best in the world. I never have been able to make pie crust as good as his. Greta raised her voice. Becca dipped a bowl full of food and carried it to the living room. We're making cookies on Thursday night. Well, that's a good thing, Greta said. You need to spend time with him so that you know your old heart will tell you what to do. How would it know whether this is a real thing or just a passing fancy if you avoid him like you've been doing since you got here? I needed time to figure out whether I was going to go back to Nashville to give it one more year, she answered. Besides, I'd heard that all he was interested in was a good time. You still yearning to go after that dream of singing? Greta asked. No, I'm pretty content now where I am, Becca said. Why? Are you want me to get out of your home so you can flirt with some old guy? Bloody hell no. Greta gasped. I love having you here, and I give my Seamus my whole heart. Ain't nothing left to give another man. Becca wanted that kind of love and that kind of thing for her own someday. She wasn't in a hurry to find it by any means, but she didn't intend to settle down to a permanent relationship with anything less than what Grammy had with her Seamus. Hi, Sonic. So this book is wonderful, outstanding. Summertime on the Ranch. 35. That makes this book a must read. So if you find Love Drunk Cowboy by Carolyn Brown and it says includes a brand new novella, you want to pick this book up. You do not want to pass it by. And Sonic even tells you, pick this book up. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. What's my next book that I'm reading? It's called Fake Engagement Nashville Style by Jules Bennett. And it's very good. To tell you how good it is, I'm on page 83 and I'm almost done with it already. So thank you for tuning in. God bless you. Stay safe. Stay well. I will be talking to you tomorrow night. We'll be preparing for my mom's big birthday, which is September 6th. And if I can get these allergies under control, I may even sing a song. So stay tuned. God bless you. Love you. See you tomorrow.